Hello, welcome to Tuesday Night Live with Kim. Hopefully, all is working on this live stream. I am here with the dregs of my coffee that I didn't finish. And this has been like the mug that I have always used. Not always. There was a time before this mug, but I got this for Christmas like 5-6 years ago. And I think because it's a K for Kim, in case anyone was confused, my mom gave it to me. But it also kind of worked with the keto. It's kind of been the go-to, and it's the right weight. Mug weight is important. Like it's not too heavy. Eric uses a really heavy mug. I don't like too heavy enough that it's going to feel like substantial, but when it's got coffee in it, it's heavy. Anyway, I feel like the right mug, it's very important. We all have to do our mug shopping. Like I have one mug that I can never get rid of. It's this beautiful green color. I love it, but it's like kind of a slightly narrower mug. Like it's not quite right. Like this is exactly right to hold for my giant hand, right? It's too narrow. So I feel like my hand would kind of dwarf it. I don't know. I feel like there's some sort of course out there like mug psychology that must exist. I hope I don't have anything in my teeth. I just had a salad. These things happen. So if I have anything in my teeth, don't look too closely. All right. So I am here on Tuesday nights to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. I am Kim Howerton. I am a health coach. I am an author. I have written some books. I wrote Common Sense Labs with Dr. Ken Berry, and I have a couple cookbooks, including a holiday cookbook with Nisha Berry, and yes, both the Berries, because they are good friends of mine and we like to spend time on projects together. And today I did something I hardly ever do. I took a nap. I was just like, I'm zonked, taking a nap. I think I did tax stuff this weekend and it just took me out. So I needed apparently a bit of a mental siesta. Anyway, who has a question? I'd love to talk about whatever you all want to talk about today. I can talk about any number of topics. I like to talk about weight loss. I like to talk about health. I like to talk about low carb. I like to talk about cooking. I like to talk about all things. I did something today. There's a word, there's an Italian word for it. And it's something, is it agua dolce? It's not aqua dolce because that's like sweet water. Anyway, it's I think it's agro. I see the problem is I'm a R roller from Spanish. Agrodulce, I think dolce would be. Anyway, I don't know. I've only ever seen it written and I can't remember it that well, but basically it's sweet and sour onions. So that was an easy thing to do. So I did that today. Delicious. Love a good onion. It was a thin sliced red onion in cut it in half first and then cut it so it's like the C's, half circles. Not a full half circle, but you know what I mean. And then cook it in a little bit of oil, a little bit, and then a good deal, not a good deal, something like what was it? It was one onion, 1 tablespoon oil, 4 tablespoons vinegar, and I just did 2 tablespoons brown sugar allulose. You could do more, but I didn't want to do more. I didn't want them to be super sweet. So it's like the sweetener and then the vinegar is the sweet and sour. And you cook it not like as much as you would cook it if you were trying to caramelize them. So they still have a little bit of their texture, but that I made that, and it's sort of like a relish almost. You can put it on anything. It's delicious. Very good. I think it'd be really good on a burger, something like that, but you could just eat it. Hey, Magic Beans, glad to have you here too. Hey, Teal. Kathy says, hello. What is cooking at your place for Christmas dinner? That is a great question. We have not yet had the conversation. So basically on Christmas dinner, like Christmas night, we go over to my sister-in-law's house, and we bring a frittata because we have the Christmas challenge or the anytime challenge with the family, because I eat low carb. Eric eats anything. And they are vegetarians. So the crossover is frittata. They do eat cheese and eggs. So eggs and dairy. So that's the common common ground. So I am going to make a spinach mushroom frittata, kind of fancy it up. Eric is a forager, so he foraged great mushrooms. So we have that. We already cooked them and froze them because the mushroom season might, it might not coincide. So we did that a couple weeks ago, right after the big rain, porcini mushrooms. And so we'll have just these giant porcini, they're cut up, but they're still like big pieces of mushroom, and some spinach, some fancy cheeses, a little bit of cream, eggs. You got kind of a really good frittata there. So that Christmas dinner will be frittata. And then we'll do like cheese and crackers as kind of a first course, like a appetizer kind of thing. And then some type of dessert. But I think my sister-in-law likes to do to come up with some dessert that she thinks that I can eat. And so usually it's fine and it's good. And so she likes to try her hand at something. And so, something keto-ish. So she'll usually look something up on the internet and do something like that. So that's great. I appreciate it. And so we've got, so that'll be Christmas dinner. Christmas Day will be real casual, brunchy thing, not anything crazy, probably just I might make one baked good, like a pumpkin bread or a cranberry bread or something like that for the Christmas morning. It'll be pretty laid back. And then, but Eric and I sometimes do like a Christmas dinner separately at home, like on Christmas Eve, maybe, so that we can like cook something fancy and have leftovers. So we may do that, but we haven't yet discussed what we might do. But we often do just kind of the same thing one would do for Thanksgiving. So we might do a roast turkey with stuffing and we don't stuff it. So it's roast turkey and dressing. But I live in California where we call it stuffing, even if you don't stuff anything with it. So there you go. It's still stuffing. It's just not stuffed. Guess that makes sense, right? And then, so we probably do something like that. Although I have been considering doing something beef because I haven't done like a fancy beef dish in a while, like a short rib or maybe some type of like roast. So I'm considering it. It's not going to be for a large group of people anyway, so it's sort of we can kind of wing it as the week comes in. But that's Tuesday. It's a week from today. That's crazy. So we have our Christmas tree. It's big. It's sparkly. I like it a lot. We got a silver tipped fir, which is one of those like they can have a lot of space between the branches. Ours is sort of a moderate one, so it doesn't have a ton of space. But what's cool about it is it has enough space between the branches that you can actually see the ornaments on the other side of the tree. So it looks extra sparkly because you can see through it. It's not a cone of tree. So I love that. I am enjoying it very much. I'm a big tree. I would rather spend a little extra money on the tree than get as many presents and little things. Because, I don't know about you guys, and this is how my mom is too, which is why it's awful to buy my mother presents. And apparently it's awful to buy me presents as well, because if I want something, I buy it. I don't know. Anyone else 40, right? I'm like, I want a little thing. I buy a little thing. I go out and I get the little thing that I was thinking I want. I don't be like, I'm going to put that on a list and someone will get it from me in 6 months. I don't have that kind of patience. So I'm like, well, I've already bought all the socks I need. And, it's lovely. I love getting gifts. I'm happy to get gifts, but I'm also not very patient and I want what I want. So I'm going to get what I want when I want it. And then if I get something else as well, that's lovely. I have some like fuzzy socks that I love to death that other people have given me as gifts. And that was like really nice. And they found something they thought would appeal to me. And that's really sweet. And I'm happy to do that. And, I just got it's right here. I always get my boyfriend a Christmas ornament that has something to do with wildlife but usually aquatic wildlife. So we have a lot of like fish and similar on the tree. So I just got this. I'll show it to you. It is an octopus holding a disco ball. I don't know. It's a Christmas ball, but I like the little, hold on. I never know where my camera is. this is like trying to FaceTime with your mother. But it's a little octopus. Anyway, so I got that. That was a gift. So that I'm giving myself, really, because I love them. But his mom, when he was a little kid, started collecting fish ornaments for him. So we've expanded the theme to sea life. But we have like a narwhal, and we have lots of little octopi and things like so we've got lots of that kind of stuff. Silent Runner, if you guys if you don't put questions or comments in, I'm just going to blather on, so put them in. Silent Runner said, had sirloin and liver with paprika, panko, and onions all fried in tallow, but still pink inside. That sounds yummy if you're a liver fan. My mother loves liver and onions. I've never really should cook her liver. I've made her chicken liver mousse, but I've not really I've not been a big I hear lamb liver though is very tasty compared to maybe beef liver, but some people love beef liver. I just remembered that my mother likes liver and onions, so that reminded me. That sounds delicious, Silent Runner. If that is your thing, I'm happy that you had such. It's that the way you describe it sounds like you did a fabulous job of creating that dish. So yay. All right. What else is going on? Thinking. I'm out of it. I'm out of blather. That's what I'm at. I've blathered through the evening. Anyway, I'm really looking forward to the next week. Just enjoying kind of a slower pace. My problem is I'm a little bit like of split minds because things are kind of slowed down. There's not a lot of stuff going on, but I am also trying to get ready for the new year and things going on in the new year, and there's a lot there. So even though the pace of things is slowed down, I actually should be super busy, but I don't want to be super busy, right? That dichotomy. Anyway, Rita said, Betsy says she had bacon wrapped chicken livers. Ooh, yum. Okay. Rita says, do I like red gravy? I want to know how is tomato paste and sauce in keto diet. I don't actually know what red gravy is. I mean, I know like the Italians on the East Coast call tomato sauce gravy, but I don't think that's what you mean. But if you're asking, but I think I know the question of are tomato paste and sauce can they work in the keto diet? And they can. Excuse me, a little hiccup there. They can. But you have to find ones without added sugar, right? And a lot of times, like if you go to the grocery store and you read all of the jars of tomato sauce and paste and whatever, some of them have added sugar. So you have to kind of find your way. But really anything, like a very famous brand of tomato sauce that a lot of people really like on the keto diet in general is Rao's, which is Raos. And I think that's how you say it, Rao's. It's named after I think it's produced by a very famous Italian restaurant in New York. And so that sauce, I think for a half a cup serving has like 6 grams of carbs. So if you find one like that, or you make one, if you make one with, tomato paste. Now, tomato paste is real concentrated, right? And so the more concentrated something like tomato paste is, the more carbs it's going to have, right? Because it's not that they added carbs, even if it's just pure tomato. It's just concentrated. So it's fine. You don't use a ton, right? It's a flavor enhancer. So it can also work, but you just kind of pay attention to that. So you can absolutely do tomato things on a keto diet. You just have to kind of be conscious of how many grams of carbs you're getting. Because like I said, like a serving of Rao's might be, which I used to think was Rouse, but I think it's Rao's, is like 6 grams. Now, what are you going to add it to, right? That, if you add it to some Miracle noodles or it's Skinny noodles, that's another brand that I like better actually. Then, that has 1 or 2 grams. So you could get away with your whole, pasta dish being maybe like 8 to 10 grams of carbs, and that's totally reasonable on a keto diet for most people. But other brands might be more like 15 grams of carbs for a serving because they add some sugar or some other things that have more carbs in them. And so you just have to pay attention and read labels when you're looking for your tomato sauce. Or like I said, make a homemade tomato sauce, which is going to add up too, because what do we put in there? We put in things like onions. Those have some carbs. Tomatoes, those have some carbs, right? And like the more things you layer on each other, the more you kind of add it up. But generally speaking, if you're doing some tomato sauce with some ground meat, you're making like a red sauce, like a bolognese or something like that, then it's going to have that meat in it. So you might not need too much tomato sauce with your meat, right? Whereas if you're just putting tomato sauce on noodles, that's not going to be a very satisfying meal without, it going full blown carbs, right? Betsy says too much tomato anything causes joint pain for you. Yeah, absolutely. Not for everybody, but some people are very nightshade sensitive, and some people are very sensitive to various types of vegetables. And so we all have tolerances that work for us, and it's unfortunate. I like my tomatoes pretty well, but yeah, we all have to come up with what is right. Yeah, the brand. So the brand of pasta. Here, I will go get it so you guys can see it. Hold on. I'm coming back. I don't live in a very big place. Hold on. So this is the brand I like. It's Skinny Pasta. It's always like who's on first when I talk about this. So that's why I went to get it. So it's called It's Skinny Pasta. And so I've said that before. And somehow it doesn't sound like a name. And so nobody knows what I'm saying. So here we go. Hold on. Try not to stab myself in the eye. So I'll show you. This is what's inside. So that's how much is in a package. So you can see it next to my fist, so you can get a size. You can see it next to my hand. There we go. So it says this is 2 servings. It's actually sort of funny. I feel like it's like 3/4. So, or not, no, 1.5, because this is like a big bowl of pasta. But if you're like, I am hungry and I want more volume, then it's 1 serving. But if you've never had it before, any type of konjac noodle, I say start with half. Start with what they say is 1 serving, because sometimes it's like it digests kind of slowly. And so some people feel like, oh, that was too much noodle, because it's very fibrous. Anyway, so this is the Fettuccine cut. So you can see it's a thicker noodle. There is liquid in here. It's liquidy, but it doesn't smell. So that's something people ask me. So you have to drain this. So I cut it open with a scissor and I drain it. And it doesn't smell, but I'm used to rinsing it. So I rinse it in cold water. It doesn't really need it, but I'm used to doing it. And so then you can, then I use it like pasta. And so I get a sample pack. They sell on Amazon. It's pricey, just saying. So they sell it. So, but you get like this, you get like 1 fettuccine, 1 angel hair. You get some like a rice cut. Anyway, but this is the brand I like the best. So it's for the entire thing. This is 9 calories. So that's why, like, how much you want to eat of this is really about how much you want to eat of it. It's not really a macro problem. And so, but they're calling this 2 servings, but this whole bag is 9 calories. So a serving is 4.5 calories. It's 0 grams of fat. Even with these glasses on, I cannot read this. It's 3 grams of carbs. No, is that 2? It's either 2 or 3 grams of carbs because it's so small I can't read it. But then it's the same. It's 2 grams of carbs and 2 grams of fiber. So it's all fiber and no protein. It's basically just fiber is what's in there. So the ingredients are konjac fiber, which is the same thing as glucomannan. It's got some oat powder. So some people who don't do oat, then it's got a minuscule amount of oat powder in it, I will tell you. Water, sorbic acid, and calcium hydrate. The calcium hydrate is is a preservative. So now I know some people might object to the oat fiber in here, or sorry, the oat powder. But as you can see, this whole bag would have 4 total carbs, of which 4 are fiber. So the amount, it's mostly cognac. I always want to say cognac. It's not cognac, it's cognac. So anyway, if you're like, hey, I don't do anything oat no matter what, I'm an ingredient girly, then get the Miracle Noodles. They don't have the oat fiber in it, but these are delicious. I mean, I shouldn't say that. These allow any delicious thing you serve with it to be delicious. They're very neutral. But the texture to me, I like a lot better than the Miracle Noodles. And it's probably the little bit of oat in it, but I'm okay with that. They are supposedly gluten-free. So they're using gluten-free oat in whatever they're doing with this, because there are some with and without. And so anyway, so this is the brand that I like. Do with that what you will. All right. So Silent Runner says red gold is am I yelling? I feel like I'm yelling. Red gold is the lowest carb tomato sauce, 15 calories per 61 gram serving. I've found Walmart cheap. Great. I've never heard of it, but people can look that up. And they should, because that sounds great. Linda says, forgive me if this has been talked about. Do you mean 15 carbs? Oh no, 61 grams isn't that much. Okay, I don't know. Go look it up online, people. I'm like, Linda says, forgive me if this has been talked about, but my mom really needs to use protein powder. You should see the cabinet I just got these out of is full of protein powder. So I'm happy to talk about protein powders. People are like, stop talking about protein powders, Kim. She has to, oh yeah, Ensure doesn't cut it. No, it does not. Okay, so I know a lot about protein powders because I like talking. I like researching things. So it depends what you want to do with protein powders, in my opinion. So thank you for giving me a topic. We'll talk about protein powders for the rest of the hour. Okay, Silent Runner, 3 carbs, 15 calories. That makes more sense. I was like, what? Huh? Okay, so protein powders. So there are, if you want to talk about all the protein powders, there are vegan protein powders, which are made from things like hemp seeds, soy, all those kinds of things. Not my favorite, but they exist. Then there are pea protein's another one, right? Then we've got all the animal-based protein powders. We've got dairy-based protein powders, such as there are 2 types of dairy proteins. There's whey and casein. And then there's some protein powders are one, some are the other, and some are both. Whey is probably the most common, but casein has its uses too. So Keto Chow, as an example, most of their protein powders, all their fruit flavored protein powders are called dairy protein powders because they're a mix of casein and whey. So if you just if you took milk out of a cow, the 2 types of protein in it are casein and whey. And to make the dairy protein powder, they just strip away everything that isn't the protein, right? So we've got the dairy-based protein powders. Then we've got egg white protein powders. And then the last one is beef protein isolate. So those are all of the protein powders that you can use to make a shake, right? And, or a soup or a whatever. You can use them in cooking or you can use them to make a shake. There are some that make savory things and there are some that are sweet flavored. All of them have their uses, all great. So when I use protein powders, I mostly bake with them. Now, if your mom is like me, right? And I don't always want to drink a shake. I would like a cookie or a piece of cake, right? I like a sweet treat. So if your mom has a sweet tooth, you can kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone and make a dessert with a protein powder. So if you're baking with protein powder, the really good ones to have are the egg white protein and the dairy proteins, the ones that mix casein and whey. They're mostly casein, but some whey. Whey is terrible to bake with by itself. Like if it's in a thing, it's fine. But if somebody like your mom, say maybe she has a small appetite, right? She's not very hungry. Whey can be really good because it's not very thick. So if you blend whey up with just water, it's pretty easy to drink because it's thin. Or so it doesn't make you feel as full. So if somebody's struggling with not enough hunger, then giving them some whey protein shakes are great. They deliver protein really well. Now, they do raise insulin slightly more than the other options because they're absorbed very quickly. But their quick absorption means they can help your muscle more, right? And so it kind of depends, like, overall what your mom likes and how she is, and what is she, low carb, is she not, and is she somebody who struggles with hunger versus not. But other thing that I will say is there are pre-prepared drinks out there, and Fairlife makes one. Their chocolate one is like, tastes like chocolate milk. It tastes like Quick. So you can buy, they're not cheap, but since you mentioned Ensure, there's a Fairlife protein shake. It comes in a white container, and and they have chocolate, vanilla, and a couple other flavors. I think they have a caramel flavor. Anyway, so those are pre-made, much better than Ensure, right? More protein. It's like 30 grams of protein for a thing, and it's pretty easy to drink down. I like them iced, like an iced cold chocolate, but you could even heat them and make like hot cocoa. Another brand that I think are pretty tasty are called Jocko, Jocko. There's a guy named Jocko Willing. He's like a Marine Navy SEAL guy. Anyway, his chocolate shakes, and he has other flavors too, like banana. I haven't tried that one, but he's got a bunch of pre-made drinks. Those are also very good. They have like 1 or 2 grams more fat in them. So if you're trying to put a little weight on her too, that might be helpful. Like the Fairlife is 150. Jocko is 180. So not that different really in calories. So those are probably the easiest in terms of not having to get the blender out and yada, yada, yada. So I would say those two are the 2 pre-made drinks that I like. There's one called Premier Protein. I've never really liked that one. Mostly I just don't like the way that they use too much sweetener in them. Now all these are pretty sweet, but those are the 2 that I would suggest trying out, the Fairlife and the Jocko. I will say though, a neat trick that I've done with my parents, though, do they listen to me? The answer would be no. Fairlife in the dairy section, where you buy milk at the grocery store. Not all, but many grocery stores carry Fairlife. There's a red, blue, and they have 3. They have a whole milk, low fat, non-fat milk. So the red one is the whole milk, and then the other 2 are blue. And it's just milk. Tastes like milk, drinks like milk, but it's got double the protein of regular milk and half the carbs. They bump out the protein and drop the carbs. So it's not right for somebody who's wanting to be full keto, but for somebody low carb who's looking for an easy protein source. If she likes things like hot cocoa, she puts milk in her coffee. If you just put one of those in her fridge, every time she's having some milk, she's getting more protein than she was before. So not as much as a protein shake, but it tastes like milk. She's used to milk. She might be more inclined to use that in her daily life as well. So that's a little trick for some people. Okay. Kathy asked, is egg white protein powder okay to substitute for whey powder? So kind of depends what you're using it in, but generally speaking, I would say should be. Silent Runner says vanilla ice cream flavor, whey protein powder, cream, and allulose to make ice cream with. Yeah, absolutely. I have a Ninja Creamy, and I use protein shakes in that all the time, and mix it up. But yeah, Linda, one thing you could do is on my website, kimhowerton.com, look at the recipes. There's a recipe for pumpkin cranberry cake and a recipe for chocolate cake, both of which are made with high protein. The other thing you could, and so if you, I know your mom probably won't make those herself, but you could take her some, something like that. And then the other thing is, I have forgotten the other thing. What was it? Oh, yogurt. Greek yogurt, not all yogurt, but Greek yogurt is very high protein and sometimes a little bit easier to get down somebody, to get more down than if they're, some people as they age, they might have texture issues. Too much chewing doesn't feel good to them, but Greek yogurt can be a great way to base. You can even mix protein powder into Greek yogurt. A lot of people do that. So you pick a protein powder you like the taste of. You start you just start adding a couple tablespoons and mix it up until you get something that's sort of like a puddingy, consistency. So you can increase the protein on that if she'll eat some yogurt, for dessert kind of thing. So those would be my recommendations on getting some extra protein into a senior who resists eating much protein. Tell me how that goes. My problem at my house is I have gotten my mother onto a Greek yogurt kick, but she doesn't like the taste of protein powders because she doesn't like artificial sweeteners. So that's not going to help. But if your mom is okay with artificial sweetener kind of flavors, then I would say, yeah, do that. Sneak some Greek yogurt into her food, mix in some protein powder. There's also, who is it? Equip, EQUIP, Equip makes a beef isolate based protein powder, and their protein powder, they have an unflavored one. So that you can maybe like mix that into various things just as a hidden source of a little bit of extra protein. All right. All right, guys. Well, I think that does it for today. So thank you so much for joining me. I will not be here for Christmas Eve next week. So we'll skip a week, but I will be back the week after, but I will be around. So if you need me, just come and get me and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.